Behind me here, we have a lineup of 6 Ferrari Challenge Stradales. Now, it's a topic we need to discuss. Should there be something like this in the Shmeemobiles? And today, I'm going to get behind the wheel of the gated manual swapped 360, and I cannot wait. We are here at Ryan Friedman Motor Cars. In fact, you might recognize some of these cars. I actually got behind the wheel of the PTS GT3 RS 4 litre in California at Monterey Car Week. Well, we're here on Long Island, New York. This is an unusual view, and I want to touch today on my Ferrari collection. I bought a few of the modern cars recently, like the SF90 Stradale, the 296 GTS, Sangue and Roma Spider, with a few more cars coming in the not too distant future. But why haven't I bought a modern classic Ferrari? That's what it's all about. Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I can't wait to get that started, get it out onto the road and go and drive the gated manual swap Challenge Stradale. I think we're here in New York on what must be the hottest day of the year. It is unbelievable today, but Ryan Friedman Motor Cars up in the showroom have an amazing lineup of Porsches, Ferraris. They like to find unusual colours, unusual specifications, hence the likes of the PTS Pastel Orange on the 4 litre. That Carrera GT, if you stick around, we might hear later on, it might be straight piped. We'll get to that. Of course, my cars are out here as well, the Monterey Blue LP640. But what we're here to talk about today is this lineup. The 360 Challenge Stradale, or just the Challenge Stradale, I should say. That is actually one of the interesting topics. Ferrari had the 360 Modena, but when they then took the 360 Challenge racing cars and made a road legal version, it became the Ferrari Challenge Stradale. There are approximately 1,300 of these in the world. I drove one for the first time when my friend Sam, seen through glass, came through to the Shmuseum with his dream car. We took it out for a run, of course, a flappy paddle car, the F1 gearbox, which most of these have. Now, Ryan Friedman Motor Cars seem to have become a bit of a specialist in these right now, because how often do you see 6 together? 6 in very interesting specifications. The launch spec is what you see here, the Rosso Scuderia. Approximately 50% of them are in this paint colour, the Formula One paint colour of the time. About 20% of the cars are then in Rosso Corsa, the more traditional, recognisable Ferrari red. And when you see them side by side, of course, you see the differences. There are about 50 odd that are in Giallo Modena, a colour I think suits it very well. Another 50 odd are in Nero DS. There are other colours as well. We have the very rare Grigio Titanio over here. Blue Tour de France, there were only a handful. And the interesting thing with all of these is to look through exclusive car registry and see the different colours, the different specifications, our platform to preserve the history of cars like these. It's fascinating when it comes to these things that have become so collectible, which is going to be a big topic of today's video, to talk about the maybe future of one of these or something like this in the Shmuseum, in the Shmeemobiles. Today though, we're going to be driving the car that we followed on that run out in California. A car that I can tell you with its exhaust system sounds absolutely nuts. But before that, I want to show it to you a little bit more closely, to run through some of the details of the interior and what was done for the conversion that makes this really quite mega. Come and take a look inside the car of the day. This is what it's all about. The 6-speed gated manual shifter, an icon amongst legendary Ferraris. And of course, down in the pedal box, the third pedal, the clutch, the manual equipped Challenge Stradale. Now, the 360 Modena gearbox is used in this, a conversion from the F1 where you'd normally have the paddle shifters on the back of the steering wheel, but there are a few other details that have been added as well. Notice this central console, the full carbon part that's been created that you find on this car and also on the other manual conversion down at the far end, something you can reach out to the team here if you're interested in as well. But otherwise, we've got the Ferrari parts, the shifter, the H pattern. There's a ton of carbon in the CS. You've got the door cards, full carbon fibre. You have the mirrors as well. They took the Challenge racing car door mirrors and stuck them on the road car effectively. The engine back here, the 3.6 litre naturally aspirated V8, went up from 400 horsepower in the regular 360 Modena and 360 Spider to 425 in this, with 373 newton meters of torque. But normally you would find that 6-speed automated F1 style gearbox. This is where it is so different, and this is something that's become so collectible. If we talk 430s, 599s, anything that has one of those, especially from factory, has become a very, very significant feature in terms of the price, in terms of the investment. I particularly like the seats in here as well, derived actually from the Ferrari Enzo. If you think back to the time when this was introduced, back in 2004, the Enzo was Ferrari's flagship hypercar of the time. They stuck the seats into this as well and launched it in this colour scheme in the Rosso Scuderia, which with the sun on it right now is looking pretty fantastic, to say the least, and the wheels painted in white to contrast against that. I always love a bold colour scheme, and to see all of these different options, to see the different specs and things that are available in the cars that are here is what it's all about. So I think we're going to be getting this started shortly, heading off to go and take it for a little drive to understand more of what this is about and talk more about collectible Ferraris in general. But you will notice when I point that way, aside from my two Fords at either end of the lineup, we have a manual, a manual, a manual, and a manual. Something Ryan Friedman Motor Cars are big fans of, preserving epic colours and combinations, manual gearboxes, 6 speeds, clutch pedals. It's what it's about. And talking clutch pedals, in fact, to come through here, I do want to show you the particular pedal that's been installed in here as well, because that's something they have created for the car also. Down here, normally the clutch would be taken from the regular Modena, and it wouldn't have the clutch pedal on the left to match with the brake pedal. It looks a little bit softer, so they've created their own design for that to fit a little bit more naturally. But let me go and grab the key and go and get this started and go and prepare to take at least this one out. Maybe we end up with some more as well. Before we go anywhere, it's going to be time for a cold start in the Carrera GT. Let's hear this. Oh my days. Oh goodness me. Thanks, Ryan. I was not expecting that.
Straight pipes.
Straight pipes, and now I can't hear anything.
This is the real sound of a real Porsche.
It's epic. That was nuts. I wasn't ready for it in the slightest. But anyway, my days. Park Carrera GT back in, and I now have this key to this car. So we're going to come and get this started. Squeeze back here. I like the details, like the prancing horse, the Cavallino Rampante right there, challenge grille on the back, and this exhaust system, and shout out to that plate, which is quite frankly amazing for one of these. So let me climb in. Oh, badly done. Carefully does it to not hit the nice Rosso Corsa paintwork right beside us. Squeeze in here and get ready to get this started. So let's see how much I'm going to fail with this. We've got to do the immobilizer, make it beep, and we've got to do the 2 pedals and then start it up. Press of the button. Nice. All right, let's get ready in a moment to go. Well, I'm not going to lie, the park brake, the e-brake, is kind of awkward to reach to in here, but oh, let's not roll backwards. Where's the bite point on there? There we go. Out we head. All right, let's go, chasing the Nero DS CS in front of us. I am very much learning as I go here. So, manual challenge Stradale, right? This is a car that Ferrari never made. It's quite unusual. Got to come to a stop here, but we've got some nice open roads to go and enjoy. So, through the revs, we'll warm it up a little bit. We won't go straight to it. That mid-rev range V8 with this exhaust setup is insane. It's genuinely insane. Now, I recently drove with Hoovie's Garage, his gated manual converted 599 GTB. So I feel like I've got some kind of experience of this concept, of this philosophy. And this is a car that, God, that sounded nice. That bark, I haven't gone high enough through the rev range yet to get to that. This is a car that should be right up my street. I was like 17 when this hit the market, 16, 17, obviously learning to drive. This is a car that I raced with in games, I remember it well. The first Ferrari I actually ever drove in my life, I don't think I've ever said this on the channel, the first Ferrari I ever drove was a 360 Modena at a like driving experience day at Silverstone Circuit in the UK. The first car I drove on the road, the first Ferrari I drove on the road was a 430 Spider. But as I've had a connection to the 360 since, I've spent very little time actually around them. This is something to learn and find out a little bit more about today. We're currently in race mode. There's a button down here, so you can press that to go into either the quieter, calmer mode, or to be a little bit more boisterous with it. The mirrors are tiny, I notice, but it feels like quite a small car overall. You've got a great view all around. And now we've got some open road to go and drive. Just getting used to the clutch pedal, the bite point, and the feeling of it in our double Ferrari Challenge Stradale Convoy here in New York in like 100 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures. It is toasty. Something I found fascinating about driving this for the first time is how much pressing the throttle influences the sound. When you accelerate gently like that, the exhaust valves don't really fully open. However, if you go the other way, drop it back down to second and get fully on it, this thing is insane. The sound is absurd. Absolutely ridiculous, and I'm getting a lot more comfortable with the clutch, with the shifter already. It just barks, it snaps at you. There's something about these older cars. And driving with the two together, this is madness. What a sound. What a sound. It's absolutely... This is so good. So, given I like it this much, shouldn't I have bought one of these already? Shouldn't one of these already be a Shmeemobile? Isn't there something about these older cars that just resonates with the petrol in the veins and the blood so much more than the newer stuff, which is faster for sure, but kind of vanilla by comparison? Okay, that was quite an aggressive downshift, but I'm not complaining about it. It just has this most momentous sound when you're on the throttle like that. These two cars just barking together through the lanes. Wow! I tell you what, this feels very OEM. This feels how it should. To go into first gear, of course, normal position, reverse is a press down, and then lower left. This is absolutely bonkers. The steering feels so connected, but also quite light. Pinpoint sharp. What a car! There's not much that beats the sound of two 360 CSs together. The downshifts as well, obviously, helped a little bit when you've got the paddles to cheat your way through a touch. But even at slower speeds, it's the sound that this makes, the way it just has that snap that newer cars can't do. Newer cars, you have to be revving to silly numbers. Obviously with, 1,000 horsepower in the SF19, for example. To have real fun with it, you need to be going so fast. But in here, it's a riot! The thing I find so interesting is about the exhaust valves, because normally in a car, it's when you reach a certain RPM, it will open up the valves. In here, it's how much you're pressing the throttle. So on an open road, if I go gently, there's not a whole lot happening. But then if I go very much on the throttle, that's when you get that full bark. And it's so loud. Even from the factory, these things are loud as you can imagine. In fact, once we're pulling away again, maybe I'll get another opportunity to just open the taps a little bit, even in first gear perhaps here, just to give you a demonstration of what I mean by this. Wait till we're past the car here, and then in first gear on the throttle. Whoa! Wow! This is absolutely silly. That sound at the top of the rev range. That's over 8,000 RPM, right up towards the red line. And it screams! We've pulled in somewhere, take a look here. The guys have brought all of the cars over to do a photo shoot together. That is mad. This is really crazy, actually. So apparently we've got 6 Challenge Stradales at the seaside. As you do. Let's talk about the topic then of buying slightly older Ferraris, and where better to do it than right beside the seaside. We've got the beach, we've got stunning views. What a place to be with 6 Challenge Stradales in front of us. That's not normal. Now, there are 2 modern classic Ferraris that I've spoken about on the channel at length. One you'll know a lot more than the other because I tend to waffle on about them quite often. The Ferrari F50, the hypercar of the 90s, the F1 derived V12, gated manual gearbox, open top, the poster car for me when I was younger, the car that I remember playing and driving with in so many games. The F50 is the ultimate dream. Now, one recently sold at auction for $5 and a bit million. Yeah, that ship has kind of sailed away off into the sunset in the distance somewhere way out at sea. I've also spoken a little bit about the 458 Italia. My first YouTube video involved the 458 Italia and a Murcielago LP670 Super Veloce. The 458 was the first Ferrari I remember seeing at the Geneva Motor Show in 2010, the first year that I went, and kind of making my way somehow onto the stand to get to sit in it and take a proper look at it and thinking, hey, one day. I drove one, obviously not all that long after that, and the 458 has always been for me one of those, like, it must happen down the line at some point cars. But every time recently I've been lucky to drive a 16M or a Challenge Stradale, I've always thought the engagement factor of these kinds of cars is off the scale. That era, the 90s, early 2000s, especially with Ferrari cars, they're so good. I mean, this thing is super lightweight, it's nimble, it's easy to drive, it's fun to drive. The sound is insane. Proper NA 8-cylinder engines. So then I know you're wondering, why do I only buy the new ones? And there's probably a little bit more of a personal thing here because I quite like ordering new cars. I like choosing the specifications of the cars. I like being able to completely build them up. I like being able to collect it from brand new. That experience of all of the belongings, the things that kindly are provided to you as gifts with your purchase, all of the experience of going to pick it up on 0 miles, and then connected to that, the history of it, knowing all of the services that it had, knowing all of the problems and things that went wrong with it, knowing all of the things then that you've changed or updated or modified along the way as well, building that complete picture. I always think a one-owner car for many decades is one of the coolest things because that means that one person knew everything about it, knew the car, you know, all the way through, and it makes it such an exciting story. That's why most of the cars in my collection I've owned from new. There are a couple, of course, like the Clio V6 and the BMW 1M that I've bought since, and the biggest example of that is the SLS AMG Black Series. And I think this kind of summarizes my point because I changed so much to make it my own car. I had to do a lot of work to it when it had some engine problems and issues, and Avant-Garde and Steve over there handled all of that and kind of made it into my own, made it so that I knew the history of it and restarted it. And that's a little bit how I feel with something like this as well. And it's all relative because, let's be real, making videos, it's quite fun to share the journey with you as well. You know, the story building up and leading up towards one of these cars, which with the 458 isn't quite the same because you kind of just go somewhere and buy it and it's done, and there isn't that, I'm going to say, enforced wait until the car arrives. There might be if you do some repainting or something like that, but it's, you know, there's one day when it isn't yours and the next day that it is yours, and nothing really happened in the middle apart from a week or two of doing some paperwork and sending over some money. So for me, I always love that connection that comes from being forced to wait for a car, being forced to then have something that takes a little bit longer to touch down before eventually you're going to have all of those journeys with it and build the history of that car, build everything that then goes on to ECR, the journey of where my Ford GT has been, for example, all the different locations, events and places it's attended is a big part of that ownership experience. So it hasn't happened, I'm going to say yet, buying an older Ferrari, but each time, like I say, I could imagine a 458, I could imagine a 430 Spider, I could imagine a 360 or a Challenge Stradale, something like this down the line. And it's days like this, with weather like this and cars like these, that just make me feel incredibly lucky to be able to drive some of these types of things. Just totally awesome, totally awesome. So it will happen, I'm going to say, this kind of thing will happen more down the line with the collection as it evolves, as time goes by, and I can be a little bit more picky about what I would like to feature in the Shmeemobiles going forwards and what adds down the line. Today though, feast your eyes over the view. I guess shortly we'll hop back in and go continue driving and you won't see me complaining. It's actually quite funny right now, everybody shuffling around, every individual person to a CS, swap them all over, get them parked up the other way and get some new photos. It is about to be go time. All of the cars lined up. How often do you see a view like this? I'm going to clamber back into the Rossa Scuderia, looking very orange in the sunshine right now. Going to have the sound of all of these getting started. You can squeeze back inside here into the shade, which is very, very welcome right now. Get comfortable, grab the key, immobilizer because it's been parked for a moment. Did I press that correctly? Let me try it again just to make sure. There we go. Okay, oh, start button. Nice. Whew. It is warm, but everyone is rocking and rolling. Look at that. This is absolutely bonkers. With all of the cars like this, totally bonkers. Wow, that one sounds absurd. We're going through. 6 Challenge Stradales together. This is crazy. I keep wanting to say 360 Challenge Stradale, but it isn't. The name is just Challenge Stradale. Ferrari Challenge Stradale. It's often shortened to 360 CS for obvious reasons. But Ferrari always do this very weird naming convention, right? Even with the F430, they named it the 430 Scuderia with no F, just to confuse everyone. Whatever is the simplest to remember and write down, hey? Anyway, I mean, look at this. Look at this. Unfortunately, stop sign. Roundabout here would be most helpful. The guy at the front, look at his face. Just like, phone out. It's nice when we roll under the trees. It just gets a little bit cooler for a moment. This is so silly. It's so absolutely stupid, but so good. The sounds of these cars together. It's like a language. The cars are talking to each other. It's how they work. Yeah, that was good. That was fun. It's going to be loud right now. They're all going to go past. Ow, my ears. Wow. That was unbelievable. That was unbelievable. We're pulling back in towards base. Oh, the shade under the trees. I need to go get some proper AC for a moment, because this has been both an exhilarating adrenaline rush, but also an unbelievable experience to drive this in that group of cars. Just wow. We have a bit of a mess of CSs everywhere, but also Avant-Garde Studio kindly giving this a rinse down because it had picked up a fair bit of dirt and grime recently. It needed a full clean, and it's getting that now, thankfully. So it's going to look tidy and shiny for what we've got coming up with it before I'm going to be packing up here in the United States, leaving it out here in the not too distant future. But yeah, big thanks to the team for getting these done, because believe me, the Dark Horse was disgusting before. It hadn't been washed since car week, and it just had so much grime all over it, especially back here on the rear deck and the wing, and it is now looking shiny and tidy, how we like it. Before we set off, a quick look around the showroom, because there are some amazing colours here. That is actually Ferrari Giallo Fly, the colour from the F50 and the 360s actually. We've got pastel yellow right there. There's Viper Green tucked in at the back. We've got Ruby Star Neo on the GT3 Touring. In fact, over the tan leather as well. Very unusual colour combo, but I do like that, has to be said. If we come through this way, we've got a 911R. We've actually got tucked in here, that's Rosso Corsa, PTS Ferrari Rosso Corsa. That's Azzurro Thetis, which was the launch colour for the Aventador Roadster back in the day. And if we come around past the manual 430 up there, this is cream white with the matching wheels and the inlays for the seats. This is a really cool spec on the 997 3.8 RS, of course the baby brother to the 4 litre that I drove recently. Lots of very nice Porsches lurking in the showroom here. I guess in a moment it's going to be time to hand back these keys. What a drive that's been. And you know, every time I've driven a modern classic Ferrari, right? Whether it's this today, Sam STG's Challenge Stradale, whether it was with Jeff out in Arizona, or even Hoovie's 599 with the gated manual as well. I've always raved about that driving experience, and it's one of those that, like, it's almost a case of waiting for the right time. Something like this will clearly happen and will join the collection. I'd love to almost go backwards a little bit as well, not just have the new cars. But certainly at the moment, I'm enjoying the new car experiences, buying the new cars, because I get to spec it, I get to choose all of the options, I get to know the car's story, I get to be part of it all, and it's so much fun actually being a Ferrari customer. And you have to make a choice. You know, something like this is, to be honest, verging on the price of a new Ferrari supercar as well. It's arguable what's going to be better long term in terms of finances, in terms of fun, in terms of enjoyment to own overall. Obviously there's a lot more in terms of running a 20-year-old car. It needs a lot more work, a lot more maintenance, many higher running costs along the way, whereas the new cars from Ferrari all come, certainly back at home, with 7 years of free servicing included and an extended warranty for quite a few years, 4 years as well. So there's very little to worry about when you buy a new car. Today, with the Ryan Friedman Motor Cars crew, has been absolutely insane. These things together have just sounded unreal. So big thanks as well to the guys for cleaning up my two cars. I am completely exhausted, but I tell you what, check out the 360, well, the Challenge Stradales, got to get that right, on ECR to go through the different specs, because it's really cool to get a better picture of something like these, because there wasn't really anything documented about them back at the time, whereas now we can actually start to understand each of the cars, what's out there, what different specs were available, how many of them have different options. But that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Check out Ryan Friedman Motor Cars. I'll pop all the links down below. But that's it for now, and I shall see you again very soon. Cheers!